your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome aboard the Indiana Sports Feed. Jim Coyle and Todd Leary with you as always here on this Tuesday, July 28th, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. On the program today, looking forward to another good one. Former IU assistant, current UNLV assistant, Tim Buckley is going to join us. Chronic Cruiser also a Tuesday. Expect to have him along as well. Todd Leary, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic.
That's good. Michigan State, I saw they had some COVID cases, 20 COVID cases, which, we talked right before. I'm like, man, I don't understand why everybody's getting let's get this stuff out of the way. Let's get it now and get through it and get to the fall. But there's not going to be no cases. So I hope people are not just freaking out when they see, there's going to be stuff. That's why they get everything in place. Now, the Major League Baseball one, that one's kind of aggravating a little bit. I understand because the Marlins knowingly played a couple of guys who were positive without telling anybody. You can't do that.
Yeah. That's pretty much a no-no, but we've been talking about it for months and, having had COVID, I said before, like, I'd rather have it and get it over with. And I'll be honest with you, like, I do have a good sense and feeling that I'm glad I had it and got it over with. Now, there's a couple of days it wasn't great, but I mean, these guys, you're exactly right. Like, we can't seem surprised by the number of cases that keep getting reported. But I mean, as long as the deaths, as long as there's not deaths and the death toll doesn't go up that high, spike, then I think we have to feel okay with the actual number of cases going up. I don't know. Maybe that's a stupid statement. I don't know.
Well, every time I say something, I'm like, I look back, was that stupid? So
I know. It probably, if one person close to me died, I would not make that statement. So it's probably really dumb for me to say that.
Well, the one that got me is, it hit kind of close to home to Hoosier Nation. Phil Westphal, who passed away recently, who was a football player for Indiana, who was actually current head of the Eye Association, I think. His son posted that his dad was not feeling well, goes and gets a test, gets the positive result. 2 days later, he passed away, which, of course, now was an older gentleman. But that's pretty dang quick.
Yeah.
It was bang,
I think
gone.
if I'm not mistaken, like, I saw him a while back at the grocery store, actually, and he had just moved to Bloomington. Like, he had, I think, some early this year, like maybe January, February, I think he had moved to Bloomington. And just, he's a guy that was just a staple at IU functions and alumni functions. And that's a toughie.
Another big story, well, not a big story, but making the rounds. Luke Brown, he's got a camp of a legion of followers who were really kind of pushing his recruitment, and it wasn't going anywhere as far as big schools go. He didn't have any big offers, and actually now has committed to Stetson, which that one surprised me a little bit. I was truly expecting to see him stay in state at a school like Indiana State or Ball State, somewhere in that mid-MAC level, but Stetson's that's the lower end of Division I. That's not even what I would call. They're not a mid-major by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I mean, they're not a mid-major, but I mean, they're a team that they play a good schedule. They
got good hats.
They usually get a bunch of guys who can shoot the ball and score, and I've had a couple of at least one friend that is roughly my age, just a little bit younger than me. I mean, he was a recruit out of Indianapolis that went to Stetson, so they've got a little bit of a pipeline out of this area down to Stetson.
There's a lot of people's got a pipeline out of Indiana because it produces so much. But those schools like that can kind of carve a little niche into Indiana. That's invaluable for programs because we talk about the talent that comes out of Indiana all the time. That's not a joke. It's not made up. I promise you. Indiana probably as a state probably leads the nation, and I guarantee you per capita, but maybe overall in Division I basketball players that it produces per capita, no doubt. You see that every year. It's crazy the amount of teams that come here, whether it's Michigan State or Michigan or Illinois or Iowa or whoever it is, always recruiting this state and that we don't even know about the Stetsons and the Lamars and all those other teams.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, the big schools, the Big Ten schools and the ACC schools and the Big East schools, those come in and get them. But I mean, the amount of guys that go to the Stetsons of the world out of Indiana, I mean, that's where, the state produces an enormous amount of guys who can play basketball and understand it. And coaches love. I'm not even saying it because I'm from Indiana. Like you can talk to coaches from anywhere. They love recruiting kids from the state of Indiana.
Steve Alford's still doing it out at Nevada. I mean, a kid from Jeffersonville is going Trey Coleman,
Dusty May that we'll talk to tomorrow from Florida Atlantic. I mean, he's recruiting kids. He's got 5 offers out to kids in Indiana already.
Well, he's a smart one. He's got connections here. He's a former manager, but that's another great, amazing story. Anytime I see, and Lawrence Fink.
Lawrence Frank.
That was the first. But you see a guy who was a manager. That's a guy who's thinking, dude, because we know how you talk about how hard those guys work. It is nothing. It's like having a job and a half, I would imagine.
It's like having the worst job and a half. Like it is awful. I mean, if we wanted to go shoot around at 2:00 in the morning, I mean, you just call manager and they come and get you and you go to the gym and shoot. I mean, there was never a guy that would ever say no. I mean, it was just amazing. Like what those guys did. I mean, Scott Dolson was a manager. I mean, now he's the athletic director. I mean, the pipeline of what managers have accomplished is really incredible.
Oh, it's nuts. I mean, Lawrence Frank, we talk about it. If you're not familiar with him, his story, a former manager under Bob Knight becomes an NBA head coach. He's probably a GM now. I don't know what he's doing now.
He's been a GM and a head coach, and I think he's either associate GM, like co-GM or GM at the Clippers, I think.
And there's a lot of guys, a lot of players that ended up getting into coaching at the NBA level. I know we all know that there's a big branch from Bob Knight and coaching and all that, but at the NBA level, a lot of former players, Whitman and Keith Smart, and a lot of guys that you don't remember. Woodson is still in that game, and it's amazing. But it's
Courtney Whitty, there's a lot of guys that you wouldn't think about that are still a part of NBA franchises.
Where's he now? Oh my God, I haven't heard that name in 1,000 years.
He was with the Pacers for an extremely long time, and he may be with the Knicks now. I think
was he from Vincennes?
I'm not sure where he was from.
I'm thinking Vincennes, Lincoln. I don't know why.
Sounds right.
That's a weird memory flashback from 30 years ago.
The thing with managers that we've talked about is when those guys go there, I mean, they're there to learn. Like they're there, like they already know. Those guys are so far advanced as far as thinking what career path they want, and they already know, and they're there studying. I mean, they're doing basically a 4 or 5 year internship,
and they probably know that it's basically going to be hell when they go into it. They know it's going to be hell. They've been told. There's enough guys that have laid the path
And I can remember, we had between 20 and 30 managers when I played back here. Coach Knight always had between 20 and 30 managers. And they turned away hundreds. Like, it's not as if, they had to go around begging people to become managers. They would turn away 100 applicants a year. And it was not an easy thing to get into. But man, they worked hard. They were all good guys. It's impressive what those guys have accomplished. There's no doubt.
Regis Philbin passed away a couple of days ago. Everyone remembers Regis. He's going to be buried at Notre Dame.
Really? Did he go to Notre Dame?
He went to Notre Dame.
Did not know
Notre Dame fan, but I was a little surprised he's going to be buried there. But
I saw he was 88 years old. I mean, that guy has looked the same for 30 years. I mean, he's got some good Botox work, or he's just aged well. One or the other. Yep,
and we lost another one, a great one down in Southern Indiana, New Albany. Rex Lee Sheets, man, he's a hero to a lot of people down that area. He's famous, and his visitation is on Wednesday. I think he was.
That area's been hit hard with some big community leaders.
Yeah, and there's none bigger. The Rex Lee was just he was not a political guy. He was the guy that he was. To me, he's the godfather of that area, man. He was just that kind of – and that movie was on last night, and I kept thinking, that's Rex Lee Sheets right there, man. He was the godfather. It was just fun stories for that entire life of 87 years that he led. But congratulations to all the things that those people do while they're here.
Sure.
That's the thing, man. You leave a mark, and both the people we've talked about certainly have. Indianapolis 500 practice is going to begin in a couple of weeks. They're trying to get that scheduled. We had 3 Major League Baseball games get canceled yesterday after I talked about the Marlins with their little COVID deal, but they played guys that were positive without telling anybody, and now you got other teams that are fearful, so they had to cancel games and all that. But
each sport's a little bit unique, and baseball's unique in the fact that they can make up games with doubleheaders. You can't have an NBA team or an NFL team, make up a game or 2 that are missed off of doubleheaders. So they're kind of unique in their scenario. They could probably cancel games a lot easier than the other pro sports.
Absolutely. IU basketball. How about this? Having a media event today, as a matter of fact. We'll have tomorrow for you. You'll hear from Archie Miller and Al Durham, Trace Jackson Davis, Joey Brunk. I'm trying to think of who all is going to be on there. A couple other players, Race Thompson, Trace Jackson Davis, if I didn't say him. But tomorrow we're going to hear from those guys and hear all week. But actually having a media event this afternoon, later on today, to this evening almost. But so we'll have that tomorrow. That's the first in a long, long time for IU basketball.
Well, we know our media friends and partners have certainly been asking for it and calling for it on Twitter. So it's it's nice that they're doing it and a good thing.
Yeah, it's helpful, especially right now when there's not a lot going on. But I mean,
yeah.
And I know at some point, because the fear of putting players in where they're going to get asked questions they just don't have the answers for. But that's no different than any other time, really. But I mean, I think most people have common sense, at least in the media that I'm around, that what's what. There's a certain position that you can't put those guys in, and because there's just answers they're not going to have. But when it comes to basketball, I think it's going to be a lot more. They're a lot more comfortable, and that's when. And same with Archie. I mean, I don't think he wants to talk about anything but basketball.
Sure. And it's a coach's kind of job to protect his players. And here's the deal. The more opportunities those guys have in front of the media, the more opportunities there are for them to say something wrong. And so the coaches, every coach, it wasn't Bob Knight, it's not Archie Miller, it's every coach for the most part, just tries to protect the players and not put them in those circumstances as much as possible. But, it's like you said, it's been a while. And with all the new freshmen coming in and with all the things that they're working on right now that we don't know about, it's nice to get a little update.
Make sure you go to thehoosier.com. Right now you can see the Hoosier Daily Virginia wide receiver cites Whop Phillier's reason in his IU interest. Point guard, 2022 point guard Avery Brown is very excited about and he had offers an interview with him on there from Alec Lasley and the Monday mailbag from Alec. Tons of questions and answers on that. Big birthdays this week, man. Brett Finkelmeyer, Michael Lewis, and Jeremiah Rivers all on July 27th, which was yesterday. I texted Michael. And then about a couple hours after that, I see they land another big old fish. They are freaking killing it out there at UCLA. They have got a great recruiting class, and they're poised to be Pac-12 champions if they get to run their season.
Yeah, if they feed off of the way they ended last year, I mean, there was no team in the country hotter than them. That's for sure. Yeah,
I texted Michael saying, "Man, you guys are killing it." And he's like, "It ain't rocket science." He said,
especially when you're recruiting to UCLA.
He said, "It ain't rocket science."
If they were doing that at South Dakota State, that'd be a big deal.
Yeah. So you tell them what they're going to do, and then you coach them. But that's true. We got a break coming up. Tim Buckley, former IU assistant coach, currently out at UNLV, is going to join us. Chronic Hoosiers on today as well. We got more to get to. But thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll be back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday. Couldn't be happier now to welcome in former IU assistant, current UNLV assistant, Coach Tim Buckley. Coach, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Great, man. Great to have you on here. Appreciate you. Todd Leary here as well also.
Coach, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it very much.
Well, it's a pleasure to be on with you again, Todd. I hope you guys are doing great.
Yeah, we appreciate, especially Coach is out at UNLV, so it means he's in Las Vegas 3 hours behind us. Means he got up earlier this morning to help us out coming on. We really appreciate you, but at least you're out in Las Vegas, I guess, is probably one of the best places to be right now with all that's going on. But, man, it's been a crazy summer, Coach.
It really has been. It's unique in that you coach a long time and you've never really seen anything like this, not only from an athletic standpoint, but even from a humanistic standpoint. And so we've really tried to adapt as best we can. And TJ Otzelberger, our head coach, I think he's done a tremendous job in leading our young men. And we've got them back on campus right now, and we've been safe and sound, knock on wood. So hopefully we can continue to do that.
Man, I was just thinking, Todd, we're probably going to see maybe an exodus of Indiana players from the state of Indiana heading west, because not only you got Coach Buckley there at UNLV, we talked about Alfred's up there at Nevada and Michael Lewis, who just had a birthday at UCLA. There's a big Western front from the former Hoosiers out there.
Well, there's a bunch of Hoosiers in Las Vegas alone. I mean, you got Pat Knight that lives out there, and Dean Garrett lives out. Do you ever run into any of those guys, Coach?
Pat and I have exchanged messages, and we were going to try to get together, and then all of this stuff hit. But I know people have talked about running into Dean Garrett, and I think that the West Coast, what made it really appealing to me is this is the first time in all my years of coaching that I didn't have to scrape my windows after the game.
There's a big advantage to that, no question about it.
Yeah, I can remember too many January nights at 1 a.m. walking out of Assembly Hall. That's not a fun place to be at that time.
Yeah, no, it's not. Hey, Coach, I know there's a lot of things that are different, but being a part of the AAU circuit with my kids for years, obviously, this week or, this past week would have been the big culmination of the summer and, national events out there in Las Vegas. And I'm sure you guys from a recruiting perspective were banking big time, or every year bank big time on that thing happening. What's been the biggest differences this summer with you guys not having all the guys being able to play in the national tournaments?
For us, we were fortunate in that we kind of got our evaluations done for a couple of classes out. And our staff, we like to recruit a small group of guys as opposed to a big group. So I think to some degree, it hasn't necessarily hurt us. However, it's really hurt a lot of the young men that would normally be out there competing and playing. And I just don't think you can get the same type of evaluation off of like streaming and that type of thing. But I do think because of the way they've relaxed maybe some of the rules a little bit in terms of Zoom calls and things like that, it's maybe found an even better and more beneficial way to communicate, and hopefully going forward, they can keep some of those things in place.
Do you think that it'll probably improve what you learn about a recruit from the standpoint of his personality and how he communicates, just like you said, probably more so than it would in the past, where you see him on the court a lot more and you can evaluate his talent a lot more. You're probably evaluating his character more than his play right now.
It is so true. And I think the way our young people communicate today, with text messaging and FaceTime and different things like that, it's very different. And so I think you find out where people are maybe in their communication skills. And then if it's somebody you're fortunate enough to have come to your school, then you know where they start from and how you can help try to build that going forward.
Yeah, I was going to ask, Coach, while you're evaluating talent, part of what you're having to do is also try to establish a relationship, which is, I guess, also part of the evaluation process. But how much more difficult has it been to get that relationship established through these different channels that you're having to use?
I think it's a little bit different in that you don't get to go out there and see them play and see how they respond to things that maybe don't go well or things that do go well. But I think we're probably over-communicating, which I think isn't too bad at all, in that you're maybe talking more on the phone, or you're doing more Zooms, or you're texting, and you're doing it in various ways. So I think you just have to look at what's most beneficial right now instead of poor me, and then just try to figure it out.
What will you guys do, like, from a recruiting standpoint? Like, this would be, like I said, the finals of AAU kind of this week in Las Vegas. But what will you do from here on out? Like, will you still try to communicate? I know I'm kind of asking the same question, but I don't know. Like, it would be very difficult, I think, to establish your first line of communication with a kid before you've actually seen him play in person. I mean, are you having to do that?
We haven't necessarily had to do that. Like I said, we've dealt with more smaller numbers, and Las Vegas is a really good area for us to recruit in. So we've been able to get out and see those guys play. So now it's a matter of more just getting to know them better and that.
Gotcha.
On our end. But I would imagine for other people, you're seeing guys not visit campus unless they did it through FaceTime or Zoom, or maybe they drove up to the campus by themselves with their family and they just kind of went on a tour on their own without the staff involved. And it's a unique time. I just think that you just got to build those bonds off the court more than maybe you normally would.
I don't think you probably got enough thank yous this year via text or via phone calls. But I know I sent you one, and IU fans probably don't even know what they needed to thank you for. But UNLV was the first team to knock off San Diego State when they were undefeated late in the season this year. And the 1976 Hoosiers were ready to crack that champagne like the Miami Dolphins do. And I know I know that was in the back of your mind, in the way, way back of your mind, but Indiana fans appreciate that a bunch, Coach.
Well, I'll tell you, that was a formidable group now, and to go into their facility and beat them, our guys deserve a ton of credit. And we played really good basketball toward the end of the season. We had won 5 in a row, and one of our better players, unfortunately, hurt his knee at San Jose State in the last regular season game, and we didn't have him for the Mountain West tournament. But it was really a rewarding year building up to that, because you could see how our team evolved. And, whenever you take over a new program, and I've done that several times in my career, the guys that you inherit didn't sign up for you or how you do it. And so for them to try to buy into what you want and how you do it, I thought our guys, they did a terrific job of it, and it built as we went through the season.
Coach, you spent so much time in this state. 9 years as an assistant under Coach Crean. When he was here, you coached at Ball State for 6 seasons. So you've got so many ties to this state. That's got to be great for recruiting, even out west.
It is. I think one of the things with Indiana is the basketball is so good, and the high school coaching and AAU coaching and all those things are really an advantage for the state. And I had wonderful experiences there. And, it's one of those things where as you go through your journey, to have the opportunity to coach at such a historic place like Indiana is definitely very memorable. And then to be out here now, the difficult thing is a lot of people want to come to visit Las Vegas, or a lot of people want to go to Las Vegas because of Las Vegas. And what you really have to decipher is who wants to be here to play basketball. And that's what the focus is. And so that's what we really try to dive into when we look at guys. And it's the same thing, too, at Indiana. You can't just bring guys in because they want to be at Indiana, because let me tell you now, that spotlight's really bright. And if you're not right and you're not ready to play, that thing burns you really hot.
Yeah.
Well, we know you spent several years with Alford at Iowa and New Mexico. Do you have much communication with him? You guys are in the same state with him being in Nevada. Do you guys have much communication at all?
Yeah, it was so good to work with him on a lot of different levels. I learned a lot as a basketball coach, obviously as a person. We got that call every now and again from Coach Knight when he was down at Texas Tech, when he felt like we needed to clean up our motion offense or something. That was always good too. But yeah, having him here in Nevada, it's I get to see him a couple times a year, and it makes for a tough opponent in our league. And he had done such a great job at New Mexico, and they'll look back on UCLA too, and they didn't do too shabby there as well. And I think he'll do the same at Nevada.
Vegas has got to be a unique place to recruit to. A great arena, the Thomas and Mack. I've spent probably 50, 60, 70 nights in that arena, but ironically, it was for professional rodeo, and the national finals is there in December. I've worked that quite a bit in the media, but great arena, but such a unique place for kids, because really kids don't really care about Las Vegas, but it's a unique place, man.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, fortunately now, the Strip is too expensive for college students to go to. So it kind of keeps them away from there, which you definitely want to do. And it's a really good basketball city, though. And as big as it seems, it's a very small town in that regard. And everybody kind of knows what's going on here in the basketball community. And they have high standards and expectations. And that's kind of what you want out of a basketball program.
Yeah, back in the days of the Running Rebels, man, that place was just electric. They were as big as basketball fans as you'd ever want to find anywhere.
Oh, my God, yeah. That team, that 91 team or 91, 92 team, they were fun to watch. Like they kind of changed college basketball for a while.
And Las Vegas is becoming such a bigger city, or a bigger sports city, Coach. You've got the NFL there. You've got the NHL there. They used to keep all the sports out of there because of the gambling, but they finally have gotten around that. And it is becoming not only just a big city, because it's a big growing city, it has been for a long time, but the sports there just continues to grow.
It really does. And they really rallied around the Golden Knights. that was the year the Golden Knights went to the finals, was the year that they had the unfortunate shootings here. And then former Indiana ball boy John Gruden is the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. So that's another Indiana tie.
Wait a minute, he was a former Indiana ball boy?
I didn't. His dad was the assistant football coach at one time when he may have been 11, 12 years old.
Did not know that.
They actually told that story on TV. I heard the Grudens talking about that not very long ago, just on ESPN. They were telling the story about him being a ball boy at Indiana.
Did not know that. Oh, my gosh. The things you learn. It's funny. Well, Coach, man, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to get up to be with us today, because I know it's a little early out there. But, man, we really, really appreciate it, and we wish you nothing but great success and the best of luck and hopefully the upcoming season that we've got.
Yeah, we're hopeful for that too, and this is a day-by-day opportunity right now. So you just focus on the moment at hand, and hopefully we get things under control here in our country, and we can get back to some form of normalcy. And you wish everyone health and safety, and we'll keep going forward.
Coach, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, Coach. Have a good one. There's Coach Tim Buckley at UNLV, now assistant, former 9 years under Coach Tom Crean here, and 6 years head coach at Ball State. And while he was there, they in the Maui Classic in 2001, I think they beat UCLA and Kansas. One was number 3 and one was number 4.
Hang on, isn't that was Majerus there when they beat UNLV? Was it not? Was Buckley not there then?
Well, he was the head coach.
Yeah, I can't.
He was the head coach he was the head coach from 2000 to 2006. Wasn't Majerus was before that, right?
Yeah. No. But yeah. It was before that, because it was when Chandler Thompson was there, and he would have graduated in like 95. So yeah, it was well before that. But yeah, I mean, he just had some enormous success at Ball State, and he's just, if you've ever met Coach Buckley, if you've ever been fortunate enough to meet him, he's just one of the most genuine, nicest people that you could come across. And he's what, I loved him being an Indiana Hoosier coach, because he's just everything you want in representing your university.
Certainly a super, super great guy. And of course, Tom Crean. I mean, a lot of different opinions on his coaching successor, but as he's
a great person.
Great person. Ben Knight was super great to us. And of course, you're going to have those kind of people around you normally, because if that's your personality. And that's the kind of, but then that's the thing I think people are forgetting for recruiting. You've got to have, these guys have to develop relationships with 17, 18-year-old kids. And some of these coaches, Archie Miller's in his early 30s, so that's a lot easier. But then you've got guys in their 50s and 60s. They still have to relate to these kids that is ever evolving.
It's funny because you heard Tim, Coach Buckley talk about how kids communicate today with FaceTime and all the different aspects of it. And I wanted to say so bad, are they teaching you how you're supposed to communicate nowadays? Because Coach Buckley's up there with me in age. So, I mean, up there in your 50s, where you're looking at, all the different ways that kids talk now with Snapchat and Instagram and all that craziness. Like it has to be a learning experience for those guys every year.
It certainly is. We're going to take a quick break, pay some bills. And when we come back, maybe hear from Chronic Hoosier. I'm not sure if he's feeling well today or not. We'll certainly check into that. But you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday. We're back with more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Everybody circling his votaries, negative, nepotist. Everybody waiting for the fall of man. Everybody praying for the.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat. Coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday, July 28th. Chronic feeling a little down still, I believe, so we'll have a non-chronic Tuesday. I think he's feeling like you felt a couple of weeks ago there, Todd Leary.
Yeah, it hopefully for him, it's as short-lived as mine was.
IU women's basketball first coach B. Gorton passed away at 73 years of age. Hate to see that, but kind of ironic that only 73, their first coach. So I didn't look that up to see when it started, but I was like, man, that's daggone. They must not when that program gets started. I have to do some research on that.
The first women's basketball coach?
Yeah, that's what it says. IU women's first coach was B. Gorton. She passed away at 73.
Huh. Well, she was either there for like 40 years
Yeah.
or that program just didn't start for a long time. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. That sounds crazy.
I couldn't believe that about John Gruden, that I had never heard that about John Gruden. That is just a cool little story, but and there's all kinds of thousands of little stories, but you usually hear them, and I had not heard that one.
I can't remember what it was on, but I heard them talking about the tie that the Grudens have to Indiana football, and I was like, what? Like, that didn't even make any sense. And then I went and looked it up, and as I was doing it, they were talking about it and talking about their dad was an assistant coach.
Well, his brother, John, oh gosh darn it, he used to coach the Washington. Jay, he played. He was a quarterback at Louisville, right down the road. So that's where he played his college ball. So
I didn't know that either.
A lot of ties to the area, absolutely. A lot of ties to the area. I was surprised not to see him. He never coached college, I guess. He just went straight to the NFL, where he has been for quite some time.
Did Chucky play football?
I don't remember. I didn't know there was a Chucky.
Chucky, the face John Gruden makes. Did he look like Chucky?
Oh, that Chucky. Yeah,
he's kind of a small guy. Did he play football?
You would think you'd have to.
Boy, I tell you what, can you?
Little bulldog, a little bulldog.
Yeah, think about back in high school. There's that one guy. There's just certain people you just don't want to make mad because you just don't know. You don't want him
guarding you. You don't want him guarding you on the basketball court. You're like, dude, get away from me.
Definitely don't. He's 5'7" and the hardest hitting linebacker you've ever seen. Like that's usually there's always one of those guys, and I bet that was John Gruden.
Yeah, he's the guy you don't want guarding you on the basketball court just because he's going to make you work 3 times as hard as you want to work. And it's like, dude, get away from me. He's like a little gnat that won't
There's
stop.
always you're playing those pickup games. We used to have unbelievable pickup games at Lawrence North when I was in high school. I mean, we would play Reggie Miller and Vern Fleming, and Vern Fleming actually had a brother, Victor Fleming.
Vern Fleming.
Those guys would come out there. We would get some crazy good games out there. Chuck Person.
Holy cow.
We had some awesome games we would play pickup. And when you just look at, I remember thinking back on there as a senior, getting play against those guys as a senior. And then you get this one little freshman kid that comes out and tries, he's picking you up full court. And I'm just like, dude, I just got done playing against Vern Fleming. And now you're going to try to pick me up full court. And he, undoubtedly he would always steal the ball from me and make me look like an idiot. But there's always that one guy.
We talked about COVID a little earlier. How about the NFL Vikings? Their athletic trainer and COVID-19 infection control officer have tested positive for COVID-19.
No one's unless you're living in a bubble and that bubble is you in a room by yourself, you got a pretty good chance of getting it.
Well, you can definitely say that the Vikings, their guy, he's going to have the most in-depth knowledge when this thing is done. He's going to know it inside and out.
Sure. I mean, wouldn't you rather have somebody in charge of it that has firsthand experience?
Absolutely. I just hope that it continues. I just hope this thing runs its course, man. I'm so tired of talking about it, but it's not going away, unfortunately.
It is not. And, we're all on pins and needles as to, what could happen with sports, what could happen with the fall sports in high school, what could happen with the pro sports, what could happen with college football and basketball. I mean, we have to talk about it like it's going to go on as scheduled, but man, it is dicey right now.
So, Bob Costas, former NBC and current CNN contributor, said that we don't need sports. We want sports. And yeah, that's true. We don't need it, but man, it would sure be nice. I watched baseball last night, and I was laughing because I know I had been like, yeah, no way. But once I started watching it, I started watching the game, and just like when you're playing a game, you kind of focus everything else out. That kind of happened. I kind of lost track that there's nobody in the stands, especially if they're not showing those stands. That made it a lot easier, and you kind of get into the game. The crowd noise is less bothersome when you actually start focusing on the game. It's not as hard to watch baseball without fans as I thought it was. 2 to 3
weeks into it, no matter what sport it is, we would get used to it. We would adapt to it, and we would get used to it. But, back to Bob Costas' statement, here's the thing. Do we need it to survive? No, definitely not. But, I mean, how many times do you hear people talk about how important someone's mental health is and, being in a routine and having things that you're comfortable with are part of people's mental health and watching sports and being a part of sports and going to sporting events and all of that is a big part of a lot of people's routine. Some people go to the lake on the weekends in the summertime. Some people watch football games. I mean, it's just part of a lot of people's routines. So I don't know. It's true. It's a true statement. We don't need it, but it certainly is a big part of a lot of people's lives.
Absolutely. Recruiting continues. I mentioned that later today we're going to have an IU basketball media event. We'll be talking to Coach Archie Miller. We'll be talking to Al Durham, Joey Brunk, Trace Jackson Davis, Rob Finnessy, and Race Thompson. So we'll have that the rest of the week.
Is that the select group that'll be there, or will everybody be there?
Just those guys.
Just those guys, not the freshmen? None of the freshmen?
No, nobody besides these guys. And not at the same time, obviously. We have Coach. We'll talk to Coach first, then Al Durham and Joey Brunk will be together. And I think then Trace Jackson Davis, Rob Finnessy, and Race Thompson will be together. It's all on Zoom call, of course.
Oh, is it? Okay, I got you.
Oh, yeah, it's not live, nothing. I'm just thinking, I don't know when the next time that I will be allowed to set foot on the IU campus. Even if they have football this fall, I'm like, wow, if they're taking the steps they're taking now, I don't know that I see them letting the media in.
They'll
you think
have
they
media.
will?
Yeah, they'll have media. Because what, here's the deal. Why have it at all? Because they're going to have they're going to get the TV revenue. They're going to get the media. They've got to have the media coverage. So you'll be able to get in there for that. I mean, we'll have access to that. Would be my guess. I don't know that, but
I don't
certainly
either.
makes sense.
You would think they'd have to, because we are the eyes and ears right now for certain things for people, and that would have to continue, especially when the season begins and we actually get to start having more media interaction with those guys. So, but yeah, it's going to be.
And you know how big the press boxes are and that stuff. I mean, they'll socially distance it and spread it out, especially the people who have, covered it for years.
They've got that covered in Assembly Hall for the media. They've already got that covered. They got us up in halfway to heaven.
Not anymore. You'll probably be sitting in row 5.
I was thinking about that. That would be awesome. That'd be like the old days back when you were playing. The media was right down there in the middle on the floor, which was awesome. Now we're the exact opposite, straight up to the very top of the main section. That's not fun. It's a long walk.
Yeah, no. I mean, when you talk about, some of the parts of Assembly Hall that were not built for today's media coverage and today's world, the media side of it is one that's for sure outdated.
And the sad thing is not just media, just people in general. That's not a good place to watch a game once you get past the 35th row or something. It's unique. It is a very unique and an iconic place. And now with what's going on now, that thing is years from going away. And I mean years now. How far back do you think this is going to set everybody?
10, 15, 20 years.
It's crazy.
I honestly believe that. Budget-wise, for anything people had budget-wise scheduled that was like a 5-year plan out, that's at least 10 years out. I mean, who knows? I don't even want to talk about it because I'm not smart enough to be able to calculate how big of an impact this will have on just ridiculous universities. And a ridiculous number of universities.
I was reading like Ohio State, the money that they're going to be losing and on football, because you think of Michigan, all those teams, like I talked about before, those guys, those teams that get 100,000 plus, think about the money they are losing. My gosh.
Think about the money. And so think about the university with that. Of course, that number is astronomical. But just think about the hotels, the restaurants, everything in that city on a football weekend. I mean, it's you can't even calculate the amount of money. I mean, from an Ohio State perspective, they probably should just close the university. I would be good with them just shutting it down for good.
Ah, man. Oh, for good.
Ohio State just going away.
Ohio State. Away. Okay, Ohio State. There we go.
Ohio State just going away.
That'd probably make a lot of people happy outside of the state of Ohio, but not inside it.
I'm good with it.
Avery Brown, one of the latest to be offered by Archie Miller, up in Massachusetts. That's up where Jordan Geronimo was from. Not a lot of guys. Indiana does. I mean, there's been Devontae Green was from New York. Tom Crean kind of got into that East Coast thing a little bit, but prior to that, not a lot of East Coast guys played.
Wasn't Oladipo from up there?
He's from Maryland.
Yeah, that's
East Coast. Yeah. Well, Crean got it's East Coast for sure. Crean did that, but he kind of got into it because he kind of lost the ability to recruit Indiana. But overall, not a lot of guys from that end of the town.
Archie's comfort zone. He's that Philadelphia area.
He's from Pennsylvania.
There.
Well, being from Pennsylvania, he's an East guy.
It's his comfort zone over there. He can speak that. He can speak that language, and that's a positive because look at how many guys are coming out of that area that are quality players right now. I mean, there's some big time recruits coming out of there.
New York produces a lot of talent, lots of talent. Speaking of Devontae, I saw that Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com posted no invite to the combine for Devontae Green, apparently, as that list was sent out, and he was not on it. So,
the good news for Devontae is, the NBA is kind of a buddy system and a boys club, and his brother will get him invites to whatever teams he wants to go try out for. So he won't have any problem getting getting tryouts with teams.
I mentioned Avery Brown. He's a Massachusetts point guard. He plays in the New England Prep School Athletic Council, which is Class 3A up in Massachusetts. Indiana's got strong ties to that region through Mike Roberts now. Of course, Noah Vonleh. I mentioned Jordan Geronimo. Also Alex Caravan, 2022 target from up in that area. So more and more. And, you get and that's what Indiana needs. I truly believe. You got to have the core of these Indiana kids, which you have to have, but you got to sprinkle in just a little flavor.
Yeah,
it's like
Victor Oladipo. You got to sprinkle in a Victor Oladipo.
Throw some salt on the meal, and, man, spice it up, and that's exactly what you have to do. Not that Indiana, the state, doesn't produce enough talent. It does, but you're just not going to recruit every kid from the state of Indiana. You're not going to get every kid from the state of Indiana.
You don't even know what you just said right there, but as far as bringing it up, reminiscing for me, because this is how old I am. When I got to IU, Joby Wright was a coach. He was an assistant coach when I was a freshman. And his number one statement he used to always say was, sprinkle some salt in your game. He used to always say that. He's like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this today or not. It didn't offend me, so I want to say that. But he used to always say, Todd, you play too white. Sprinkle some salt in your game. in the most loving way possible. He put his arm around me. Like, no one took offense to it. It was just funny. Like, it was just fun. We had a great relationship with those guys, and Joby that guy's a classic.
Hopefully we'll be able to be there one day too. That would be nice to be able to joke with each other. Of course, you're right. It's a different place today, but some salt, man. That's kind of, you think back at Indiana under Bob Knight, he did that very thing. He just didn't go very far to do it. He maybe go to Chicago to get an Isaiah Thomas or Eric Anderson from Illinois or right around here. He didn't have to go very far.
In the world did they get Joe? How in the world did Bob Knight get Joe Hillman out of California? That just doesn't even make any sense.
40 and a guy who scored 44 points a game in high school. There ain't no way you're going to be shooting the ball when you come to Indiana, dude. What are you thinking?
But think about. So go back to those teams. I'm trying to run through teams. If you take away Keith Smart and Dean Garrett, because they were JUCO transfers, right? Weren't they both JUCOs?
Yep.
Where were guys from?
Which was a first for Bob Knight, I think. I think he had never ever done that before. And not only do it once, but you do two, and they both start, and you win a national championship. Crazy.
Think back to those teams in the 80s. What's the farthest recruit you can think of in the 1980s?
Oh, California.
Obviously Hillman, but
what about Ivan Renko?
Yeah, well, that was a long ways away. Poor Joe McDuffie.
Who's Joe McDuffie? I missed that one.
You don't know the story of Ivan Renko?
I probably don't. I probably have forgotten the real story, but was he a reporter?
Okay, Ivan Renko. So what they did?
I know his Ivan Renko was fake, but
okay. So I'm going to eliminate names here, and I'm going to say there were some people close to Coach Knight that when Coach Knight would say something, they would leak it to the media. Okay, and I shouldn't have said any names already, but I've already said one. So what Coach Knight and the coaching staff did was create a fake player named Ivan Renko, and they only told these two people about it.
Oh.
And you know how big the story ended up getting? That's how they found out who was leaking stuff. Ivan Renko was a totally made-up, fictitious person.
That I knew.
And the purpose in doing it was to find out who was leaking stuff to the media.
That I did not know.
Yeah,
that I did not know. Mm-hmm. I thought it was just Bob Knight being Bob Knight, which was almost ingenious because they bought into that crap.
Yeah, no, it was a trick on one of his quote buddies.
That's funny. Boy, I bet that relationship soured in a hurry.
Yep, big time. Big time.
Tim hit the text line. Says New Albany High School had a field of soccer players on their new field yesterday going through drills. Must have been 40 kids out there. That's positive to see. So that's good.
Like players on the team, or you mean like a camp?
Probably players on the team going through drills. Okay. I know my daughter they've taken a week off. They're back to it as well to practicing, but they're still social distancing. They're not practicing.
Can they kick a ball to each other now?
Well, no, not. At least my daughter has.
Only touch your own soccer ball.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So just probably more about conditioning right now. I mean, that's probably the most important thing for every fall sport is to get the kids in condition.
Willie and they practice at 6 a.m. every 4 days a week right now, and they're playing 5-on-5.
Well, those guys are getting after it. There's no doubt about that. And we've seen those.
Why would soccer and just kicking a ball? I mean, but we know how physical that sport is. It's not just kicking a ball.
And I guess that they're trying to the thought process is probably to just minimize everything as much as possible right now. And I'm fine with that. I get it. I'm like, whatever it takes, wear a face mask. Everybody wear your face mask. Let's get through this, man. Let's just get through it. And instead of fighting it, because that's kind of why we are where we are now. Not enough.
If you don't wear a mask right now, you're a jerk.
You're talking to a guy who caught this. So and again, Phil Westphal, that story that stayed with me. 2 days. He finds out he gets a positive result, and 2 days later he passes away. I mean, it's serious. So let's take it serious so we can have a fall season, man. But been another great day. Coach Tim Buckley from UNLV, former IU assistant, joined us. We are grateful to have him on and look forward to that tomorrow on the program. Dusty May, head coach at Florida Atlantic, another former IU manager who continues to do well. Chris Denari later in the week as well from the Pacers. We'll talk about see how they're doing in that bubble. See how the NBA they've managed to keep things kind of going because they're in the bubble, but hopefully that continues.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm looking forward to talking to Chris. I mean, he's always been a good friend of mine and just a good guy, but just the best announcer you could possibly have. And the Pacers are fortunate to have him.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot to everybody for joining us on the program today. We appreciate it. Look forward to doing it again tomorrow. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers. Alec Lasley's got a lot of stories up there. Paul Gable's got a lot of football stuff up there. A lot of stuff that's still going on. So stay in the know. Until tomorrow, for Todd Leary, I'm Jim Coyle, and we'll be back then. I'll see you on the radio.